we talk about what it means to be a man, to be strong and to be these things, sometimes I think real strength is allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to go there.
What's up, y'all? This is Aaron from Dad with Love, host. This is the show where real dads talk about the messy, meaningful, and sometimes hilarious parts of fatherhood. No highlights, no perfect answers, just presence and reflection with a little bit of humor. So I'm just happy to be here today. We got somebody special. I got RJ with me. Man, this is somebody that I've known probably for, I want to say, 15 at least about 15 years, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's been 15 years,
About 12 to 15 or something like that.
more or less.
um, and so I've known RJ obviously pre dad phase, and now he is a professional working in higher education, currently residing in Hawaii. Welcome to the show, and just happy to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me. Really good to see you, bro. I know it's been a few years, I think. I know we've been on text message, but really excited to kind of just have this next conversation with you about something very important. And I think for me, it's perfect timing for me. So appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Well, shoot, man. I guess kind of just as we kind of get into it, first off, just like, how are you, like, for real, for real?
See, when people ask me how you doing or how are you, I feel like I just gotta be real with you. And I'm doing well, but as who's not tired as a father or as a parent, I'm definitely tired trying to balance things. But so I'm looking forward to getting into the weekend to spend time with my family.
Okay, so then, I just let's dive into you as a dad. You got your kid is, how old is your kid?
Man, I was just talking to my coworkers about this. He's gonna be 2 in August. So no,
Ooh,
about I was doing the countdown. It's a month and 9 days. He's gonna be 2 already. It's flying by. Yeah.
man. Well, I know that you and I, we've talked over the years about, like, just kind of our what we've gone through growing up, what we've learned, and fatherhood. There oftentimes is not a blueprint out there, and so I guess one question to kind of get it started is like, with no blueprint on being a father, what does it feel like to parent, just from a model that you essentially gotta, like, kind of create on your own and, like, build as you go?
It's definitely challenging, not having a blueprint, and that could be for anything. It can be, you mentioned higher ed. It could be a first gen college student. You gotta navigate admissions. You gotta navigate financial aid, how to move and all that. And so fatherhood, I don't think it's as simple as looking at my experience. My father who wasn't present and there. It's not as simple as doing just do the opposite, right? Because it's just, we live in a world that's not black and white, and we live in the gray. And so it is challenging. But I think for me, I'm really trying to strike that balance of giving myself grace and, trying to stand tall in who I am and what I believe in, what values I'm trying to pass on, how I'm trying to show up. But at the same time, um, not trying to doubt myself, like, oh, okay, this is, we were truly blazing the trail in some aspects. And so, yeah, it's challenging, but we move and we just keep going.
I think as your kids get older, you start to see a little bit more of the reflection of how you're doing becomes a little bit more, like, present and visible. But I definitely remember the twos. I remember when my son was two, my daughter was two. So what's been challenging? What's been hard?
Heard about the twos. I heard, you hear a lot about the twos and, with two looming and just right around the corner waiting the wings. Honestly, I feel like it started. It started already. It's not something that's like, okay, I'm two, daddy, I'm two now. So here we go. This is the script. This is what we on. No, like it's definitely going to be, a gradual, crescendo, if you will. And so, yeah, I look at him now and He definitely has like the big emotions. He doesn't know how to express it. And so he'll have his, moments where we need to pause and kind of take a breather. Sometimes we gotta see. I'm quoting some of the stuff on the gems that you've been giving me in season one. Really to just give time to connect, and that's been happening. He's also very active. I think as former, athletes, me and you, maybe there's a side of us that want them to be athletic as well, but
Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, I feel like, because now it's like head on a swivel for real. And
yeah,
he's like a spider baby. He's climbing stuff. He was trying to climb on top of the stove. And so
yeah,
it's here, I feel like, despite being, a little over a month away from his 2-year mark. But yeah, it's flying by. So I'm just trying to remind myself, and my wife and I are just trying to remind ourselves that don't blink and try to enjoy it as much as possible. Cause yeah,
yeah. Yeah, what would you say has been like in these first 2 years, like been like the hardest thing you had to either like you had to do or something that you had a moment of like, man, this fatherhood thing is like it's real being a dad.
I don't know. There's been many pivotal moments. I mean, we can go as early as, I think he was like a couple months, and he's just, they're just trying to figure out what's what, like how to do the basic stuff that we feel like they should know, like sleep and eat and everything. And I realized about me, and I think you can definitely trace it to, my experiences with parenthood, my own parents and my upbringing. When I hear like yelling or crying, it's like I have a certain reaction to that, and I get really overwhelmed in that
Yeah.
moment.
Whew, man,
And
it's like a
so,
trauma response. Like a trauma,
yeah,
like a
and
trigger.
definitely a trigger. And I feel like I think we don't know what we don't know. And so when we look back, like you said, you mentioned the feedback, that's important because now we can kind of look back and reflect and really be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't, maybe it was a misstep, or maybe I need to do it better this way. But when I remember he was crying, which all babies cry, it's normal. And I was getting so frustrated in that moment. What I needed to do was not engage or continue. I needed to just take a breath, really. Right. And I think it wasn't even the first time that happened. I really struggled maybe the first several times, and then thought back and was like, you know, you and your partner, if you got a partner, trying to collaborate and talk about what we need to do, how we need to move. And so I think taking those moments to pause, to breathe, like literally breathe, helped me. And I think that's something I'm trying to remember all the time, as we all know, it's nonstop. It's a grind. I didn't know that parenthood was like this. I definitely have a deeper appreciation for my own parents and parents around, everywhere. But yes, it's the most important grind that we'll take on. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said something that I think struck a chord with me, which is just that when your kid's crying and you feel that you get tense and like, it really being a difficult thing to kind of process through. And really, what I've been learning and talking with my wife about this is like it's the regulation that I think self-regulation that I wasn't taught. And I think sometimes a lot of dads and fathers aren't taught about like how do you self-regulate. We're usually taught like use that that energy to like be harder, be stronger, be faster, jump higher,
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying? Like all of that. And you're not really taught like regulate that and like learn how to harness it. And so
Mm,
similar to you, like well, my kid, even now, I mean, I think even now, my kids, I still have a trauma response to the screaming and yelling. Let me tell you, man, after two, it's not just screaming and yelling. It becomes words. It's like
mm,
they've learned words now. And depending on how you choose to raise your children, which legacies or generational traumas you want to break or
mm,
change that was different from yours, if you're raising your kids to be expressive, to have their voice and emotions, you know where they got to practice that. They got to practice
yeah.
it at home. And so
Yeah.
I
You're
still
right.
get I still get those triggers, man, because now my kids they ain't just crying. Like it's crying, it's words. I'm looking like what? So yeah, man, that's definitely something to process and like hearing you go through that. But I think you mentioned having a partner that you two kind of see the same end goal is important about stepping away and taking breaths. So
Yeah. Good to know that we got more coming.
It's a lot more than that coming. I guess another question that I have is you said a little bit about like a different appreciation for parents and those people before us, but I think, for those that don't know much about your story and you without you having to go super depth in detail, do you see yourself really working towards like trying to change the trajectory of how you're raising your son versus like what you might have been raised? And I say that because I think sometimes we don't realize it until we're older, like how we were raised might have been negative or not negative, but just it may not be the best thing to carry on.
Percent. Someone explained it to me. Not these days. I'm talking to a lot of parents, and I'm just, trying to build this community. That's why I'm so grateful for this, really, because I think, there's a lot of knowledge to share, and different approaches to take. And so for me, I'm definitely trying to, I'm taking an inventory of what worked, what I appreciated. Sometimes I have conversations with my mom. I was raised by a single mom, and even, she did a lot, and she was trying to, I'm the oldest of four, and she did her best. And so I guess my point is I'm really looking at like, okay, what went well, and then what didn't go well, and what can, hopefully I can, maybe there's cycles to break, things to
Hmm.
approaches to take that could improve. So I'm definitely trying to make it better for my son. And so trying to unlearn things, and it's a process. It's, I got to keep reminding myself, because I'm really hard on myself, is what I realized. I think when you take on something like parenthood or fatherhood, it shines a light on you look at yourself in the mirror, and again, you kind of just learn as you go. So definitely trying to undo a lot of stuff. I have a few things in mind, but yeah, definitely trying to do that.
Yeah, what is one thing that you think you're trying to undo in these early 2 years, these fresh two?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's too early, but I think about the things that I struggle with, that I think that show up with men. I think about men's issues right now, and I guess we could name some, like, depression, anxiety. You mentioned mental health month, uh, suppression of emotions and feelings. And, I think that's one example of something I'm really like trying to not undo, but I'm really trying to help him, give him a foundation and really the space to express how he feels, but really try to understand how he feels. I mentioned we're nearing the 2 year mark, and we can see that he has, like, his emotions are bigger and he doesn't know how to express it. I know that's natural, that's par for the course, but I really want him to, if he falls down and I'll see, instead of giving a reaction, like, or, trying to give him a prompt to act a certain way, we'll sit back, we'll try our best to sit back and see how he reacts and how he feels. Just because I know down the road, and this is me 100%, and I'm trying to unlearn and undo a lot of these things, but I just don't want him to grow up being, emotionally unevolved in some aspects. Like, I want him to have sense of who he is. And, when we talk about what it means to be a man, to be strong and to be these things, sometimes I think real strength is allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to go there. And it's not a binary. It's not like you need to be super in touch with your feelings. I think it's all of it. I think it's a spectrum. And to be able to raise someone, to be able to hit those different areas as well as model it for him,
Yeah.
I think is good. So that's one thing I'm trying to focus on. I know, obviously there's no cookie cutter recipe to getting it done, but that's one thing I'm very mindful of, and I try to do that, because I just think about, again, men's issues and how does it connect in society, in this society, and what are ways we can kind of take on, or approaches to take on, to address it, I guess.
Yeah, and you mentioned, modeling it for him. I think secondary question to that is like, how do you model something you never had the model to do for you, right? Like, I see myself like I had something modeled and I had a father figure model, and there's elements of that model that you have to kind of sift through and be able to say like, I can take that piece, but not this piece. I don't want to take that piece. Let me take this. And so it's so hard to figure it out. And so my question to you would be like, how do you model something that especially you sharing that you're raised by a single mother, like how do you model something that the model was never from a father side of things? Like I know your mother would play that will certainly be that role for you growing up, but like how do you model something that you wasn't modeled, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. And I think, I mean, we live in this era of where we have access to tons of information, and,
Hmm.
whether we sift through it and critically process all of it is a whole other thing. But, there's lots of information out there. And I think about how it is a good thing that we can have access to more information.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got to be selective and see what works and what we want. It is hard. And so I'm constantly, talking to folks like you, or trying to talk to folks like you and other fathers, and just know that there's a multitude of ways. And sometimes you just learn along the way. Uh, but it is hard. I don't know. I ask myself that question all the time. How do I do this? And am I doing a good enough job, while balancing all the, fatherly pressures that we put on ourselves? And,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's difficult,
Yeah.
but I think just leaning on each other and trying to, I think our cultures are very communal, right? And so, and you hear the term, it takes a village, and I think that can be a metaphor for, it really does take a village to figure out how to raise a child, and not just like multi-generational homes or grandparents or other family members watching them and helping raise them, but really like trying to lean on each other more and like find out, what's worked and what hasn't worked. So yeah, just trying to take
Yeah.
a communal approach, I guess.
I mean, I think with that, with the communal approach, another thing that I'm starting to realize is like, as you continue to like go down the parenting journey and your kids get older, you start to realize like the important role other kids' parents play in their life. Because like, you could be around somebody that also has a kid who's about to turn two, and how they talk to their kid, how they choose to meet their kid's needs or not, starts to play a role in whether or not that needs to be a part of your community. And it could be people you've known for years. It could be people that are in your family. And you start to see like, that's a little toxic. So I
Yeah.
think that communal piece is really critical as the journey continues. Yeah. Um, I guess another question is, what has fatherhood taught you about yourself?
A lot, man. I'm still in class sessions, I feel like I'm still taking the prereqs here for what it's taught me. Man, I just feel like I'm just, like him, the way kids just, they soak everything up for real, like everything, and I'm just trying to do that really. For me, again, I mentioned how hard I am on myself. I don't know, it's because I'm the oldest, and which I know has a lot to do with it, and I think that's just my personality. Really, it's it's taught me, again, trying to strike this balance. Like, yes, stand tall on who you are, and go for it, but have the courage to go for it and do what you believe and go about it in that way that you want to. But at the same time, have the grace and have the humility, really, to be like, oh yeah, I had some blind spots here I wasn't really thinking of or considering, and maybe this is one instance where I fell short. But it's really, I feel like I know myself better. I'm more self-aware, and I'm even hesitating to say it, but I need help, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't need to be serious help all the time, but I can't do it alone, and my partner and family and learning from other people. And so it's been this, I don't know, emotional undertaking, I think, to I look at, yeah, we're raising our kids or our son, and but we learn so much from that process. So yeah, constantly evaluating. It's just this cycle of just trying to make sure I'm doing my best job. And yeah, I definitely overdo it. I overthink it all the time. But yeah, I guess trying to revert back to like, okay, this is what we're striving for, and if we fall short, it's all good. Let's again, we move because it's nonstop. He's about to wake up now, and here we go again, you know?
Man, but what's so big is you saying like you need help. You know, I look, we all need help. Like
Hmm.
parenting is so much trial and error. It's so much learning as you go. It is, you know, like you said, being hard on yourself sometimes. It's other times giving yourself grace. But I think what I'm learning also is like being able to say you can't do something. And I think too, like from a male fatherhood perspective, again, going back to those old models of masculinity, those old models of being tough and not saying that you need help and not being vulnerable, which you're talking about vulnerability being so critical and important in the journey of fatherhood. Being able to say like you need help, man, is so it doesn't happen as much as we think it does. You know, you do trial and error and make some mistakes as a father or as a parent, and like who you have to say like, yo, I need help, you know, being able to address this issue. I think one of the biggest areas that I always need help in is repair. You know, it's after an old schema or model in my head has caused me to react a certain way, make a certain look, and then trying to be able to go repair that situation because my kids are they deserve repair,
Yeah.
but it's like I need
Yeah.
help to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I need help because repair wasn't something I was familiar with doing, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely a journey, man. What do you think is, I mean, I know your son is almost 2. Let's say when your son is 10, what do you want, what do you, yeah, what do you want him to remember from who his dad was the first couple years of life, like that he would want him to remember about who you
I
were?
want him to just remember I mean, it sounds so simple, but really it's hard, man. I just want him to remember that I was always there and I was present, like intentionally present and, someone that went there and, was willing to be silly and, have those moments, especially as he progresses through the years and through the different stages. But it's so hard. And I think, again, not just fathers really, but all parents, I think prior to, Amani's arrival, I wanted to be, I'm a PhD student, I'm thinking about my career, I'm thinking about like tenure and promotion and, I'm thinking about trips, he wasn't in the picture yet. And so I had goals and I was trying to achieve these things. And obviously when he was born, everything, shifted. And now I'm in this cycle again, like many other parents where we got to be productive and we got to work hard and we're trying to finish, I'm trying to finish my PhD. I took a leave of absence and it's kind of there. I'm at the point where I'm closer to finishing it than just not doing it at all anymore.
Right, that's dope,
And
man. Still though,
I'm
still,
chasing these things, but I feel like the more time I spend at work, I feel guilty a lot of times because I'm just like, man, this is time I could be spending with my wife and son. And so and vice versa, like, shoot, am I falling, again, short? Maybe I'm not as sharp as I was or proactive as I was at work, but I'm realizing that one thing is clear to me is that I would rather be, what matters to my son and my wife is paramount, is most important. Them remembering that I was there and I was present and, we spent a lot of time, though it wasn't a lot of time, but it felt like to him that, oh man, we had a ball like before bedtime, after work, and oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes the bedtime get pushed back, but yeah, I
yeah.
think that's what I want my son to remember me as. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy. I had a reaction when you said 10. That's double digits.
Oh,
And
I know. Mine ain't even 10 yet. And yeah, I got a reaction just saying that word 10 to you.
it's flying by though. I can't believe he's gonna be 2. And so yeah, it makes me think about all the things that parents used to say, when we were about to take on this parenting journey. Don't blink, it flies by, like I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I did listen, but now I'm like, oh shoot, like you weren't lying. You weren't lying at all.
Nah, cause I got a third grader and I'm like, where did that happen? Where did that happen? Like time is flying by, man. Yeah, so it's definitely. it's definitely crazy to see how quickly time goes by, but it sounds like, you're being present, you're being, super conscientious of what you're doing. I think as you just mentioned, like when you have a kid, like your definition of success, I think starts to reshape itself a little bit
Yes,
and kind of sometimes surface things that you didn't even know was there because you have all these visions and goals of like what you want to accomplish, which can still be done.
hmm,
But when you bring a kid into the world, it's like success takes the blinker come on and then you veer off to make sure that they're on that same trajectory for success. And it starts so early for them. Like you're in this critical time of the first 2 years of your kid, like navigating, imprinting, and just learning so much about who his parents are, and stuff, man.
it is.
Well, there is, this is from Dad with Love. So one question that I think I have to ask every person on the show is essentially centered around like if there was something that you wanted to give to other fathers with love, whether it be new dads like yourself in the same, kind of parenting journey, like what would you give them with love just based on what you've gone through so far? What would you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of sums up everything I mentioned, really. Just to, to be bold and yeah, there's, to really try to redefine and reframe sometimes how we view, strength and being, what it means to be strong. Like I mentioned before, sometimes being strong is asking for help, is allowing yourself to not be paralyzed and be crippled and to suffer in silence, which so many, I think a lot of, again, it goes back to like the issues with men and today's society, suppression of emotions, sometimes it leads to substance abuse or mental health issues. And we want, when I look at my son, and I know I'm not the only one in this boat, I think we're all on the same page. We want the best for them. And of course, we want to protect them, which is kind of a lot of good stuff that comes from the old, traditional models of what it means to be a man and raising young boys. We want them to be resilient, but to be resilient, like you gotta be there emotionally, you gotta evolve emotionally and understand like how you feel and what's what. And so I'd say with love, I just want to pass on that, to rethink what strength means. And it's not just this binary that it's not, it's many things. Success can be defined in many ways. Sometimes it's, a win today is I left the office on time or maybe earlier and I'm there and I'm ready and I start, and that's a win and that's
Yeah,
successful. No matter how small it is. And so I guess that and really just let's lean on each other. Let's kind of be communal. We've always been, communal people. I really don't believe that people get things on their own. Even my mom, who was a single mom, she leaned on a lot of folks, and for sure it was her, right? I owe it all to her. But
yeah,
along the way, there's people that we depend on, and then make it work. And I think the best outcomes come from that.
yeah.
Yeah, allow ourselves to go there emotionally and make sure you're taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and yeah, let's ask for help and be in community really.
That's how you end with love, man. Just dropping that jewel around, redefining what strength means, talking about asking for help, and you are exemplifying strength. You know what I'm saying? Like you're at work right now, but also you got your son centered in everything that you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here talking about it and just continuing forward. So, man, I'm happy for you to be on this journey of fatherhood. I'm still figuring it out, and if we build a community and keep each other accountable, um, I think it's the help that you were talking about is there, and the village is there. So I just want to say thank you for taking time to be on From Dad with Love, being vulnerable, honest, and man, just appreciate having you on the show.
Man, Aaron, it means a lot coming from you because I know young RJ 15 years ago. So I appreciate you for just, you model a lot for me too. And so, when I didn't have the guidance or the model or the blueprint really. And so I appreciate you. It means a lot. And yeah, I'm glad we're on this journey together. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to From Dad with Love. If this episode made you laugh, feel seen, reflect, please share with another dad. And remember, this isn't about being perfect, just about being present.